Hey everyone, this is Dr. Jennifer Harris with Whole Story Counseling, and we're continuing our supplemental videos to our first episode of the blog series, Am I in Trouble? We are looking at the way that our overthinker inner critic panic spiral is in this state of hypervigilance because of misalignment, misattunement, and misunderstanding in our childhood with our caregivers and how that has created a sense of dis-ease within ourselves, a story that our nervous system learned. If we look at this now through attachment styles, we can start to understand how the messages that we got from our caregivers caused us to draw conclusions and make assumptions as to why this was happening. And when we look back now with adult eyes, we can maybe see a bigger picture, but as a child, it was much harder to put that picture together. So let's do a brief, when am I ever brief? But let's do an overview of what attachment is, the fundamental foundations of attachment, and then we'll do a deep dive into each attachment style so that we can discover more about how our particular brand of attachment influences this story within us about being in trouble and the way that we've been wired to tune into how people are responding or reacting to us as a measure of our safety, connection, and belonging in relationships. So let's start with, what is attachment? Attachment is the invisible thread that connects us to other people. It forms our earliest relationships and shapes the way that we experienced closeness, communication, emotional attunement, conflict, and overall safety in relationships. These patterns begin, once again, in childhood, and often even before we have words. Attachment is formed very, very young, as early as 18 months old, and is wired into our body's nervous system and continues to shape our adult relationships today, whether or not we're aware of it. So, at its core, attachment is about safety. It answers questions like, can I trust others to show up for me? Can I rely on love, connection, and belonging, or is it inconsistent? Is it sometimes present, sometimes not? So it creates an instability. Is it not there at all? Is it too much in a way that smothers me? Is love consistent, or do I have to earn it? Is it safe for me to be fully seen? Is it safe for me to be myself? And so when we have a incongruence between the child's needs being met in the way that the caregiver mirrors back, then we have an incongruence in safety within relationships. So the answers to these questions as a child, we are seeking through the feedback that we get from our caregivers through not words primarily. This is the important part. Through body language, through eye contact. I often say that Apple did a really wise thing when they named their video conference chat thing FaceTime, because at its core, attachment is about, when I need your face, does your face reflect back to me? Do you look at me? Do you make eye contact and maintain eye contact with me, or do you turn your face away? Or if something that I put out there, does that cause your face to turn away? So these body language signals, tones of voice, even this kind of way that kids instinctively feel energy of emotions around them, all are felt on a visceral level as a child, which means in our body, in our gut. And so these signal the safety and reliability of the connection with our caregiver. And the messages that we get in response to this question as the safe, yes or no, These are stored in our nervous system as a story. And the way that that story is stored shapes the way we show up. The way that we show up in relationships and how we respond to anxiety in relationships, disconnection in relationships, and how we respond to harm and pain in relationships. Keep in mind that healthy attachment is not about our parents or caregivers being perfect. Healthy attachment is not about perfection. It's about presence. And if attunement connection is broken, that connection is repaired and reconnected. So these attachment styles that we develop are all about enough, meaning, was it safe enough? Was it attuning enough, loving enough, balanced enough, or was it too much, too little, or a roller coaster thereof? I'm going to do a quick flyby about the five main foundations of what forms attunement. Attachment, which number one is attunement. Attunement is being seen and known. It is the ability in relationships for people to literally tune in. Remember, old school now, nobody listens to radios in the car anymore, but remember how you used to like turn the button until you got the clear connection. In attunement, it is the response to noticing when someone's needs are present. In a child, that begins with crying. When you are very, very, very little, you don't have words. You cry, you fuss, you make noises to get your caregiver's attention to say something's up. I need you. I need you to help me. When the child is reflected back well, it is the foundation of felt safety. If I reach towards you, even as a very, very small baby, and the caregiver's reach comes towards them, it builds a sense of, I'm safe. You see me. You respond to my needs. You understand that something needs attention. I need food. I need my diaper changed. I need sleep. I need my skin touched. I need body signals that we are connected. And so attunement is built through eye contact, tone of voice, emotional connection, emotional mirroring, and all of this is about how we get sensory input to our needs. This is what's so amazing, that attachment is felt in our body. This isn't about just behavior then. It's about connecting touch and bottles and breastfeeding and dirty diapers and all of that to messages of, I am worthy of love and belonging. I am worthy of care. I am safe to feel my emotions because my body is safe and I am safe in my body. So attunement teaches the foundation of identity. Attunement teaches the foundation of trust. Attunement teaches secure embodiment. And at the core, spiritually, attunement echoes the moment in Genesis where God has finished creation and looks at humans and says, ah, you are very, very good. The second foundation of attunement, of attachment, I have to quit doing that. The second foundation of attachment is rupture, because as we said before, attachment is not about perfection. It's about the ability to fix connection when it's broken. So it will naturally rupture. When connection is broken through misattunement, through neglect, conflict, miscommunication, emotional withdrawal, we experience a rupture when, so to speak, the plug is pulled out of the socket. No caregiver gets it right all the time. It only becomes a problem when it's frequent, ignored, minimized, shamed, unrepaired. Parents will screw up. Duh. And the power of an apology. But what happens a lot of times is that when the rupture happens, it's not cared for. It's sort of like a wound happens, I cut my hand, and nobody comes along and puts a Band-Aid on it. Well, if it's a cut on my hand, it's not that significant. But what if I broke a finger? What if the cut is near a vessel and then it gets more and more intense over time? So repeated ruptures without repair is where we often find ourselves back into those small t traumas that create what's called fragmentation, internal splits between the parts of ourselves that are loved, that seem to get attunement back, and the parts of ourselves that don't, that are hidden away because they don't seem to get love. And so without repair, children internalize messages that their needs are bad and wrong. Their needs are too much. I'm too much. And it becomes this when I put my needs out there and I don't get them met, that shifts again. Remember back to the super ego role. The rules become my identity. Instead of using the rules to balance my identity between the devil on your shoulder and the angel on your shoulder, so to speak, that becomes identity. So when my needs show up and they're not met, I don't think, oh, there must be something about my need. No, we think I am the problem. I am too much. I am not worth the effort. I am left alone in my pain. No one is coming to help me. I will never get what I need. My needs are a problem. Love is conditional. I'm going to put my needs away. Now, that might happen in response to rupture. But if repair comes, our third foundation of attachment, if repair comes, that message can be redirected towards truth. I made a mistake. I didn't do that well. I'm sorry. Let me try again. Versus not noticing it, not responding to it, shaming it, belittling it. So repair then is the process by which connection happens again. Repair is the process of reconnection, the lifeline in relationships that tells us that disconnection isn't the final story, that safety is possible. And when done well, it actually strengthens the relationship. Any relationship that never experiences rupture doesn't actually have a true level of trust because we don't know how people respond to when rupture happens. When couples come to me and say, we never fight, and I'm like, okay, because how do you know your relationship is stable enough to handle that? So remember that repair tells us that this disconnection is not the end story. It's not the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey used to say. It is about, I noticed that something went wrong, and I care enough about you to come back, circle back to it, and work through it with you. It helps the child understand that conflict doesn't lead to abandonment. And it builds resilience in the relationship. It builds relational trust. It builds the ability, even when rupture hasn't happened, for my needs to come present because I know that even if I ask for them in a way that causes rupture, repair is coming, which in many ways diminishes the chance of rupture. But in the restoration of the rupture, presence is the key. The caregiver returns. The face returns, the eye contact returns, acknowledges the wound and reconnects. So this process teaches us that pain doesn't mean abandonment. Conflict can be healed. I am lovable even when I mess up. And I am lovable when you mess up. This is the thing. So, as a child, when our caregiver turns their face away from us, we assume it's our fault. We are the problem. But where pair comes along and says, your needs are not a problem. I didn't do that well. Let's try again. With a parent-child relationship, a lot of times this is very difficult for parents because it feels in many ways that admitting their fault to the child diminishes authority, runs the risk of further separation. And I'm here to tell you that the exact opposite is true. When kids understand that adults make mistakes and are able to take responsibility for them, you are teaching them to trust you more, not less. You are teaching them that they themselves are not perfect and that when we make mistakes, we can do the same. You are teaching them that vulnerability and honesty is a gift, is a characteristic worth pursuing, so that as we grow into adults, we are able to practice those places of repair in relationships by naming, here's what I saw, here's what I did. Sometimes that means we go to the person who hurt us. Sometimes that means we go to the person we hurt. Name what happened, seek restoration, and hold space for that trust to rebuild. So, attunement, rupture, and repair creates a securely attached child where there is enough emotional safety and trust to grow into an adult who is able to pursue and be part of relationships that are also secure in emotional safety and trust. This leads to the fourth pillar of attachment, which is called differentiation. Differentiation is the process of becoming a whole self, the process by which a child learns that they are separate from but still connected to others. This process is about learning that as we grow, we started out like this. We really needed our people to take care of us. And the older we get, it is natural for us to start to pull away and to become our own self. I call it this, so that instead of having an enmeshed relationship as the child becomes an adult with the parent, we start to find our own self again, find our own identity, so that when we come together, we create relationship like this, not like this. So differentiation is the process by which a child learns that they are an individual, but also part of the whole. So healthy differentiation is supported through boundaries, respect for individuality, and emotional autonomy. This process of discovering the boundaries between you and me, parent and child, safeguard this emotional enmeshment, which as into adulthood becomes very destructive. It allows people to have difference of opinions and still feel connected. People who think differently or believe differently than us don't destabilize us because we are secure enough in who we are and our own beliefs and opinions. Means it answers the question, can I be fully myself and still belong? So in securely attached families, children are allowed to say no to things that might be expected as a family, but are not foundational rules of basic being a human. Fully differentiated people don't say, no, I don't agree that the laws against murder are bad. So the murder is bad. So I'm going to go and be differentiated and murder people. That is not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is that Children learn to disagree with their parents about politics or religion or how they feel emotionally or the emotional allowance they have for people into their own privacy without it disrupting the system in such a way that creates conflict. That doesn't mean that kids know everything, but do they have the right to be heard? Do they have the right to have their own emotions, change their minds, even disagree without repercussions, without abandonment, rejection, shaming, punishment? Now, if those disagreements happen and it is a legitimate boundary breaking thing, such as a child walks up and slaps a sister across the face for no reason, or a child walks up to her brother and decides to pants him or something like that, then the process of meeting that situation does not mean, oh, he's differentiated, they get to do whatever they want. That is not what I'm talking about. It means if I run out and I know that my boundary of my parents is here and I run towards it, I run smack into it and I fall down, that actually is teaching me to be securely attached. My parents mean this, but my boundary of self gets to be my boundary and your self is your boundary. We are not reliant on each other to hold each other up. So without differentiation, we are insecure in relationships with others because we don't have that fully formed sense of self apart from other people. We don't have that balance of I can be me and still connected. So we either then learn to collapse into others, codependent, enmeshment, parentification, the way that I learn to be for others, or I completely withdraw from people, right? People are too much. I don't want to be here. I don't need you. I don't need anybody but me. Or swing in between the both of them. When we are not allowed to differentiate, which is to become whole in ourself, which is about defining our selfness, the rules of who we are, our beliefs, our emotional personality, and the way that we let other people treat us, and the way that we treat ourselves, this whole selfness. What happens is fragmentation, and this is number 5 in our foundations of attachment. When we encounter connection that is continually unreliable, unsafe, harmful, distant, too much. Instead of having that sense of self, it breaks apart and fragments in a way that tries to self-protect. When rupture is frequent and unresolved, unrepaired, or when the caregiver themselves is also the source of fear, aka abusive, neglectful, unreliable, unstable, present and not present, just not trustworthy, the self inside splits into parts to try to manage all of these overwhelming emotions. And these individual parts are coping strategies where I'm going to pull out this part because I think this might work sometimes. I'm going to put this one away because this one doesn't work and this one gets ridiculed, this one gets ignored. This splitting happens to everyone because we live in an imperfect world. And there is a spectrum. The more disorganized or traumatic our families of origin stories are, the more these fragmentations turn into embedded, stubborn, self-sustaining strategies that take us further and further away from who we truly are, who we have been truly created to be. So over time, this fragmentation turns into a false self. Much like a family role in childhood to create structure, safety in the family structure, it solidifies over time and into adulthood where it becomes identity rather than a role. It's like the difference between being an actor in a play, going in and putting on your costume, and then forgetting that you're in a play and this is a costume and a role that you've learned and memorized. You forget to shed it. So over time, these strategies calcify into identity. And healing begins by welcoming all our parts back into the whole, regardless of what we think about them, and to start to remember that all of these strategies are not at their core bad. They are self-protecting and they are brilliant because they emerge to help keep us safe in families in which safety was not found. So part of understanding those pieces within ourselves is about having information to help us heal. It is now our responsibility to start to name and heal these stories, even though it was others who harmed us, so that as we heal, we can become more trusting and trusted in relationships. So, the 5 pillars of attachment: attunement, rupture, and repair, which a lot of those kind of go together, and then have 2 outcomes: differentiation, when we grow into a whole self, where I get to say, yes, I get to be fully me and still belong. Or 5, fragmentation, where the answer to that question, can I be fully myself and still belong, is no. And then we disintegrate into structures, roles, masks, facades, where we, as Brene Brown likes to say, hustle for our worthiness to try to earn and prove that we can be loved. So then we have these 5 foundations of attachment, resulting in 4 attachment styles: secure attachment, and then 3 insecure styles. Secure attachment and 3 insecure styles. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a brief overview of secure attachment, because I'd love to meet somebody who's securely attached. I haven't had it yet, but I'm still hopeful. And it also gives us a vision of what healing looks like in relationships. And then we're going to talk about the 3 insecure styles of attachment. These are not personality types. These are not fixed labels. These are not a box that we shove ourselves into. These are patterns that we have learned about how we participate in relational safety, how we do relational love, connection, and belonging. It's sort of like the map that we use. It's the stage that we play on. So that if we can start understanding how our family dynamics shaped these patterns, then we can start to honor it as a way we learn to survive, and then choose something different. As we heal, so does our attachment style. Okay, so secure attachment is rooted in consistency. The childhood message that we receive is that I am loved and others will be there for me. My family of origin was defined by healthy boundaries, by the presence of enough repair of rupture, and consistent enough attunement. So the caregivers were generally attuned, responsive, emotionally consistent enough, where the child felt generally seen, soothed, safe, and supported. Communication was clear yet kind, open and honest, and congruent, meaning the words that came out of the mouth of my caregivers matched the body language. Verbal and nonverbal information was congruent. It matched. This is a big one. Conflict was navigated without fear or the threat of punishment, meaning relational abandonment or shunning. Resolution was found without forced enmeshment or agreement or sacrificing of one's sense of self over another. And any type of conflict results in repair. So the family system was structured enough to hold security and stability, and yet flexible enough to allow for people to be individuals. So resulting beliefs in relationships is that I am worthy of love and others are worthy of my love. I can be in relationship, but also be myself. And who myself is loved and accepted. And others are trustworthy. So I can love and accept them. It's a mutual kind of relationship where I am secure, you are secure. I am worthy, you are worthy. I am me and you are you, and we can be a we that still holds me and you. It doesn't collapse us into an enmeshed we-ness. So just take a moment and think for just a second, is this my family? Do I have a core belief that I am loved and others will be there for me? And if not, which part of that felt off? Here's the challenge. Where might you try to paint a rosier picture of what you experienced with your parents versus the experiences you actually had? And how does this vision of secure attachment help us see a path towards healing? Next, we're going to go to the first of the three insecure attachment styles. Let me name them all first. So we have anxious, avoidant, and I call it disorganized. Some people call it chaotic. You might also find fearful used with avoidant or dismissive avoidant. You might find anxious called other things, but this is my shorthand. I don't like having more than one word. So I have anxious, avoidant, disorganized. These are the three insecure attachment styles where attunement was inconsistent, rupture didn't happen enough, resulting in fragmentation of relational safety. So let's begin with anxious attachment. The core experience of the family system that creates an anxious attachment style is inconsistency, unpredictable. There was somebody in the family that was probably very needy, which caused me to diminish my needs. So the childhood message that you receive is that I have to earn love. My caregivers were inconsistently attuned, sometimes responsive, sometimes unavailable, sometimes responsive, sometimes distracted or preoccupied. And so the child grows with an unsureness of, am I really seen, which creates anxiety. This inconsistency of attunement means that there is an anxiety built into when the caregiver is separated because I'm not sure they're coming back, so that I need to be close to them to make sure that I have a better shot of getting my needs met. So the child learns to rely on external information and affirmation for safety rather than what the messages are being heard in their own self. So communication, likely too much over explaining, emotional intensity or clinging, hyper attunement, and then a misalignment of verbal and nonverbal cues. So like the nonverbal tone is not matching the verbal reassurance. which causes the child to then start to distrust their own gut feeling of safety. So conflict is threatening and results in this fear of abandonment, and the anxiety about abandonment causes this early adoption of people-pleasing, emotional over-involvement, and tends towards a family system of codependency, emotional enmeshment, and a place where there's not enough space or flexibility to handle any differences without a lot of anxiety and fear. Very little space for individuality without guilt or disconnection. So closeness is confused with compliance. So then the child becomes hyper vigilant to relational cues, becomes very hyper vigilant about what they are seeing and hearing and feeling because of this unpredictable, inconsistent nature of the attunement, the emotional availability of their caregiver. So the resulting belief, the child fears abandonment, which again, remember that superego thing, that becomes the identity. I must be connected to be safe. If I express my needs loudly enough, if I come at my people enough, then I might get my needs met. So then distance is abandonment. Distance is rejection. And remembering that in healthy differentiation, there's that ability to hold me within the we. That is not possible with anxious attachment. There is any type of distancing feels like rejection, feels like a breakdown in the connection of relationship. So the core belief of anxious attachment is that I have to earn love or I will be abandoned. Think for just a moment about your own connection and relationships. Does any of this ring a bell? Does any of this sound familiar? Attachment style, insecure, number 2, avoidant. Avoidant attachment, the core experience of the child in their family of origin was dismissal, emotional distance, a hyper independence and self-reliance that is often even praised and lauded. If you think back to the parentification in family of systems, right, there's often a praise for a child who is wise beyond their years, so grown up, so mature for their age, because their caregivers, they have learned, are distant. They are rigid, meaning not able to be vulnerable, or they're so busy, they're so overwhelmed by life, they have so much going on that the child doesn't, there's not enough for the child left over. So the child learns, I can only rely on myself. The child learns to self-soothe, to minimize needs, and to rely on my own independence to feel safe. Because my family is unreliable and distant. And even if I cry really loud, I don't get a response. See the difference between anxious and avoidant? Anxious, I believe if I cry loud enough, I'm going to get my needs met. Avoidant says it doesn't matter how loud I cry. I can only rely on myself. So the communication styles in families systems that creates an avoidant attachment are about control, often restrained in a way that is very intellectual or guarded, meaning tries to be very logical and yet underneath extraordinarily passive aggressive, where coldness and distance is framed as self-control, but what that really is a avoidance or a minimization. And so because of that, nonverbal cues are flat. They are almost disconnected, disembodied from the words that come out. So Disagreement, standing up for yourself, asking for your needs to be met, is often seen as just pointless. It's not safe, so why would I even do it? How many times have I heard clients say, what's the point of even saying something? Because personal expression is downplayed, right? Emotional expression is the worst. And autonomy, meaning my hyper responsibility, my hyper self-reliance, my hyper independence is prioritized. So I am actually over differentiated. I have so much selfness that I don't know how to be in a we-ness. So independence is prioritized over connection. It's safer to be alone. A high value on self-sufficiency, not having needs, diminish my emotions, just shut them off. And why would I have emotions anyway? Because my adults don't respond anyway. So why would I have them? Emotions aren't safe then. I have to take care of myself. Other people are not reliable, and relationships demand too much from me. So the end result, I can only rely on myself. Other people are unsafe. Do you see elements of yourself in this? Our third insecure attachment style, disorganized, also called chaotic. And the core experience of a child in a disorganized attachment style is disorientation. It is characterized by caregivers that are unreliable, unpredictable, and chaotic. They are frightening. They swing themselves between hot and cold. There's often a very high sense of trauma, neglect, or abuse in people that result in a disorganized attachment style because the child themselves grew up swinging between fear and chaos, between a parent one day who's extremely close and the next day is abusive. It's like this hot and cold, hot and cold. And you get caught in this swing between I want connection, I don't want connection, I want connection, it's not safe, I want connection, it's not safe. And so you're disoriented. So there's no clear strategy to feel safe. I can't come towards you because sometimes that gets me smacked or worse. I can't stay away from you because sometimes that gets me in trouble too. I can't win. This family of origin structures defined by communication that is very chaotic, contradictory, and reactive. What got you in trouble the day before might not tomorrow, but what I didn't get in trouble for today, I might tomorrow. Emotions are, again, extreme between flooding and complete cutoff, stonewalling. And there's a struggle to actually say words or nonverbal cues that communicate anything clearly. And so we learn to not trust anything. So connection for the child is unsafe, but also overwhelming. And remember, anything that feels overwhelming, this is trauma. Overwhelm is a key word in what feels like trauma. So conflict, terrifying. Outbursts, rage, sobbing, complete shutdown, and collapse. So the family system is just unpredictable in a way that is marked by trauma, abuse, secrecy, um, role confusion, who's the parent, who's not the parent, hyper attachment or complete non-attachment because it's not safe. And so this level of differentiation is extremely fragmented because there is no strategy to be safe. So the resulting beliefs are love is unsafe. I can't trust myself or others. I'm going to try closeness and then I'm going to run. I'm going to try closeness and then I'm going to run because there is no clear path towards any semblance of relational closeness or safety. So at its core, people with disorganized attachment styles believe that love is dangerous. I want it, but it always hurts me. And so you can see how there are places here where we're going to replicate the abuse of our own home growing up because we're going to choose love that hurts me because that's what love is. It's dangerous and it's going to hurt me. So we swing. I want closeness, get me the heck out of here. I want closeness, get me the heck out of here. Do you see pieces of yourself in this relational attachment style? So let's conclude this video with what is it in these attachment styles that contribute then to this I'm in trouble story? Well, insecure attachment, there's not much of it because I've internalized insecure attachment that I am not in trouble for having feelings. I am not in trouble for having needs. And so that inner critic is very mild to moderate, more like a gentle conscience rather than that blame and shaming voice. Anxious attachment, on the other hand, also called preoccupied. That was the word I couldn't come up with. Remember, love is inconsistent, so I have to earn it. I have to perform. I have to be of a contribution of value to get my needs met, if I get it met at all. So I have to stay close. I have to be close enough so that I can respond to a flicker of an eyelash, 3 trees from the left, that I can meet your needs so that I can get mine, maybe. So what this inner critic dynamic, being in trouble, is all about staying close so you don't get abandoned. If I make you mad, then I will be in trouble and you're going to leave me. So your inner critic dynamic is all about being on hyper alert for any type of relational cues and moving in that perfectionistic way towards I have to figure you out. I have to figure out the rules of how to get what I need from you. And then when I don't reach that perfection, which none of us do, then we spiral out of control in what it is that we possibly could do wrong. So I'm in trouble because I didn't fix whatever it was that you're mad at me for before you even got mad at me for it. And then that clinging in relationships, which often causes people to pull back because clinging in relationships is just a lot of pressure, then that just seems to reinforce to the person with anxious attachment that I'm in trouble because I didn't meet your needs well. And so I need constant reassurance. I struggle with boundaries. I can't say no. And at the core, we are constantly guessing how to stay connected. It never occurs to us often in adulthood to ask the people that we're in relationship with what that looks like because we assume it's not predictable because it wasn't in childhood. So we try to figure it out for you. And that's partly what feeds the story, am I in trouble? Am I in trouble? Am I in trouble? Because I haven't been able to figure you out. And it might not ever occur to me to ask. Now, let me leave you with a piece of good news here. I just lost my notes, so let me pull it back up again. Let me just give it a little piece of really lovely news here because a lot of this is about looking at the challenges, right? But anxious attachment style has some really, really beautiful gifts. It has some amazing relational strengths. Anxious attachment has a very deep capacity for empathy and connection. And because of that hyper attunement, we're not usually wrong when something shifts. We're usually wrong about the why it's shifted, but not that something is shifted. And people with anxious attachment work super hard in their relationships. So that ability for empathy and emotional connection and the ability to have a more developed emotional experience, these are gifts. The challenge is that when that story gets tricked in our nervous system, those capacities go on hyperdrive. So we cling, we overanalyze, we are emotionally flooded, we are in our head just spinning, 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 all because what we are looking for is reassurance that we're still connected. But when anxious people are healing, oh my goodness, they are warm and emotionally available and present. They are the people that when you invite them over, they're like an Enneagram Healthy 2. They're going to make you a cup of cocoa. They'll probably bake you or make you or cook you your favorite meal or dessert. They're going to get you a blanket and they're just going to sit on the couch next to you and be just so happy to be in your presence. When anxious attachment is healing, you learn to speak your needs without fear of abandonment. You learn to speak your needs even in the midst of fear. You make the request with the hand shaking, and you start to learn to trust in the mutuality of love, connection, and belonging in relationships. Such a gift. So think about your own attachment style. If this is you, pause the video for just a second and mark down some notes. What am I seeing in me? Where am I growing? Where do I see evidence of healing? And where am I struggling still? Where do I have growth areas? So let's shift now to insecure attachment style 2, avoidant, where we learned that core belief of I can only rely on myself. Having needs is unsafe. I have to handle things on my own. So because the parental behaviors were about emotional unavailability and distance, um, workaholic parents, addicted parents, um, traveled a lot for business parents, just not available. And also the message where your performance is the most important and lauded thing. Remember that I get praised for being wise beyond my years, for being more mature than my age, those kinds of things. Rewarding of self-sufficiency. I had to hide my feelings to be safe. And so that trouble story starts to kick on if I have allowed my feelings to come out too much. So you can see how anxious and avoidant is sort of like yin to the yang. Anxious is all about needs all the way out here. And when I get in trouble, it's because I haven't met your needs. Here, I get in trouble if I put my needs out. I have to hide my feelings. And if I don't, I'm in trouble. So it's in anxious attachment, it's about I haven't met your needs. And avoidant attachment, it's because I can't be vulnerable enough to risk meeting my own needs. I'm not even trying with yours. It's about why would I put my needs out there? And when I do, I'm in trouble. So that the reach for connection is always going to result in rejection or shame. So I'm going to avoid it. So that inner critic is constantly about staying cold, staying detached, and no needs. Constant shame towards having any needs. Constant shame towards asking for help. And at the core, any kind of vulnerability feels unsafe. So imagine an avoidant type who married an anxious type, and their anxious type is coming towards me because they feel me pulling away, because that's just sort of the natural way that avoidants are. And the more they come at me, the more I pull, and the more I come at me, the more they pull until rupture happens, right? Because it's not about Anxious is all about I'm hyper focused on your needs. Avoidant is all about I'm hyper focused on keeping my own at bay. I'm going to minimize my own needs. I'm going to minimize my problems. I'm going to minimize emotion. I will struggle with intimacy. I will struggle to ask for help. I'm fine. I'm fine. And so the critic that I'm in trouble is because I let my soft underbelly show for just a second. That's a little bit scary. But again, there are gifts of an avoidant attachment style when it's healing because that independence and self-sufficiency in relationships is something that anxious attachment needs to learn, right? If we can put anxious and avoidant together and keep their superpowers from each, then we've got a really lovely, fully differentiated person. Because the anxious is all about the we-ness, and the avoidant is all about the me-ness. And if we put that together, then we get a differentiated person. So avoidant attachment in healing honors autonomy and independence and self-sufficiency, not only in themselves, but also in others. The challenge of anxious attachment is that they assume what they know how to help other people. And avoidant attachment is going to be much more willing to let you have your personhood, that you're going to figure it out for yourself. We have clear boundaries, sometimes overly clear, but avoidant people know how to say no. They know how to hold boundaries. They know how to define the boundaries of selfhood. The healing comes in defining those boundaries with flexible material rather than concrete blocks. So the other gift of avoidant attachment styles is that they are often very calm and rational and clear-headed in a crisis. And you can see how that taken to extreme can also be a problem. That under stress, that withdrawing, that turns to shut down, or in some cases becomes hypercritical. It's like you won't stop coming at me, you won't stop coming at me. So I'm going to behave in a way that causes you to, I'm going to be mean to you, so you go away. And this discomfort with emotional closeness that as it starts to heal helps what I call, if the anxious is always going toward and the avoidant is always kind of like running away, the avoidant teaches the anxious to be a little less at me. So there's balance. So a healing avoidant attachment knows how to be clear-headed, grounded, and boundaried in relationships. They are very unlikely to become enmeshed. Very. They are willing to be present and emotionally available within their boundaried self. And they will trust connection when they are healing that doesn't overwhelm or threaten my identity. They will not find themselves well healing in relationships that continue to overwhelm them. Healing is found in relationships that they can trust that the connection, I can rely on it, and it won't overwhelm me. In many ways, a lot of these align with a Enneagram type 5, for example. That ability to resist overwhelm, but also then in healing, the ability to be fully me, and you can be fully you, and then we can become a we, not a push-pull. So when healing happens, an avoidant attachment style's inner critic calms down and allows connection to allow vulnerability. So do you see elements of yourself in this? Lastly, the third insecure attachment style, disorganized. I want connection, but it will hurt me. Love is dangerous. I want it, but it hurts. This ping pong in childhood between hot and cold, between safe and unsafe, chaos, in just a very intense level of unreliability and unpredictability. where parents are both source of comfort and fear. I never knew what was going to happen. I don't know how to be safe. I'm always in trouble or under the threat of trouble. Closeness is dangerous, but so is isolation. I can't win. I'm not safe on my own and I'm not safe with other people. And so the inner critic, that being in trouble feeling, is this paralysis, this swing between a extremely hypercritical inner critic and also this shut down, run away, why did you try again, inner critic? Like you should, why did you, why did you, why did you, why you should, why did you? Just constant back and forth. You can't win. And so you're in trouble no matter what. It's like that expression called walking on eggshells, and underneath the eggshells are landmines. So there's a very high reactivity, a dissociation, or even self-destructive patterns under stress, all driven by this inner I'm in trouble story, but I have no tools, nothing gets me out. And so that inner voice is about chaos and fear. And this attachment style also has gifts. Chaotic, disorganized attachment style results in a deeply intuitive, insightful sensitivity to relational and emotional dynamics. They will always seek meaningful connection despite inner conflict, and any type of assurance of trust will be pursued. And when they're healing, this attachment style has an ability to hold differentiation more so than any type, because that swing between clinginess and avoidance, then as it heals, learns to hold that tension between intimacy and autonomy, between selfhood and connection in the community better than any of the types. It's as it gets grounded in a growing sense of safety and self-trust, it can start to extend that self-trust to others. Where anxious attachment says, I need other people. Avoidance says other people are unsafe. Unhealed, disorganized attachment says no one's safe. So it starts with a growing sense of self-safety that then leans out towards others' safety. Which, if you are in a relationship with someone that has disorganized attachment, even as healing happens, you will experience this swing between clinginess and avoidance, this sabotaging of intimacy just after it develops, and a confusion, a stuckness. But in alignment, learns to be grounded in that growing sense of safety and willing to take the risk, willing to try. So let's do a brief overview at the end here. Foundational beliefs about relationships. Secure attachment. My needs are not a problem. I can trust me and I can trust you to meet my needs. And I feel safe enough in who I am to also be me and part of the group, part of the family, part of the community system. Anxious. I have to fix it for you or I'll be rejected or abandoned. Avoidant. I will shut down so I don't need anything. Disorganized. I want closeness, but I'm afraid of it. Love is dangerous. The inner critic, the story that drives that I'm in trouble or I'm about to be story. For the anxious attached person, it's my fault. I caused this. even when you didn't. So over apologizing, guilt spirals, a need to move towards you to make sure that you're not rejecting me or abandoning me. Avoidant, I can't need anything. A drive towards self-sufficiency and emotional suppression. And the inner critic rises up if anything leaks that might smack of vulnerability. Disorganized, the inner critic, I am too much, I'm not enough, I'm too much, I'm not enough, I'm too much, I'm not enough. This identity confusion and shame, this swing between why didn't you and how could you? You should have, why did you do that? So, what feels like you? What strategies did you learn to keep connection, even when it cost your voice, your needs, your emotional expression? And how did you try to stay safe in relationships? So we begin with self-compassion to start rewriting the script. This is not because I am broken. It is because I was trying to be safe. And these stories were formed in my nervous system way before I can look at myself from adulthood and say this could also have been true. And as you name your attachment style and think about how that is the how we show up in relationships, the mechanisms, the behaviors, the strategies that we use to get connection. Then we're going to turn next to our Enneagram type, which helps us understand why. The story that's underneath, the belief that drives that behavior. I'll see you there. Bye-bye.